Welcome to the webinar. I'm Kirk from WP Apprentice, and I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to tune in. We still have some people connecting to the webinar room. I want to make sure everyone is online before we start. So while we wait, I would appreciate it if you could take a moment to tell us where you're tuning in from. There's a chat box on the right side of your screen. If you could just use that to type in the name of the city or the country where you're tuning in from, that would be great. We've got members and subscribers tuning in from all over the world. It's always exciting to see where people are tuning in from. And as you know, we have a special guest for today's webinar. I'm very happy to welcome Rebecca Gill. We're going to be talking to her in a moment. Lots of people here. We've got Mesa, Arizona, Mexico, Northfield, New Jersey, Toronto, Canada, Connecticut, Spain. Jose's here. London, England, Melbourne, Australia, waking up very early to be here at this webinar. I appreciate that. Pakistan. Okay, so truly people are tuned in from all over the world, and it seems like everyone is hearing me, or you wouldn't have been able to know that I wanted you to do that. I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm so happy to welcome Rebecca Gill to this special webinar, a guest host for one of our WP Apprentice webinars. This is exciting for me. Rebecca is the CEO of Web Savvy Marketing. She has over 15 years experience in sales and online marketing. She provides SEO coaching and teaches group on-site workshops. She's also the SEO instructor at DIY SEO courses and SEObootcamp.com. Rebecca's here today to talk about on-site SEO techniques and on-page SEO techniques. These are the things that you can do on your own website to improve your rankings. I've seen this presentation. There is a ton of valuable information in today's presentation, so pay attention and take notes. Rebecca, welcome to the webinar.
Thanks so much. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us from all over the world. It's just wonderful to have you, and I'm excited to be here today.
Great. We're excited that you're here with us, and I'm going to turn it over to you now, and I'm going to monitor the chat room for questions. And after Rebecca's presentation, we're going to go to Q&A. So we'll be able to answer any questions you have about on-page SEO.
Wonderful. Since I'm new to your audience, I want to just give a little bit of background on me and my SEO experience. I know that you may encounter people, in your daily life or online that say that they know SEO, and you're always suspect because SEO is many times considered, the snake oil salesman of internet marketing, and I get that. But I want to just tell you a little bit about me so you can kind of hear my background and know where I've learned SEO from. So I started with SEO 15 years ago, roughly, when I was doing marketing for a software company in Toledo, Ohio. And we were competing against companies like Microsoft and SAP and Oracle, and really just large firms that had large marketing budgets and teams of SEO consultants working on their websites. And for us to really be able to sell and for me to be able to feed my children, I needed to teach myself SEO. And we didn't have the marketing budget to send me out to learn it anywhere. So I literally spent every day, including weekends and nights, learning SEO and practicing it and testing things and, just trying to gather as much information as I could at that time. And I would test and I would figure out what was working. And literally, we grew our website traffic so much through SEO that we grew the sales of the company 400% in 2 years. And, we were selling a $100,000 system. And so it wasn't a cheap sale, but I used SEO to do that. And that process and that need to really just feed my family really helped me craft this skill. And I've used the same process for 15 years that I learned back then. And it works across industries. It works across website sizes and blogs. And I'm here today to tell you that anybody can learn SEO. Don't let a consultant or somebody else fool you into thinking that you have to pay them a monthly fee to do SEO for you. That is complete BS. You can learn it, whether you're a webmaster or a marketer or a blogger. You can learn SEO and you can learn how to rank yourself on Google. It's just a matter of focusing on the right techniques and making sure that you are putting your best foot forward to help the user and the search engines be successful. And that's really what it's about. And that's what I want to go through today with you. And so today we're going to focus on-page optimization. So on-page optimization is what happens within your actual website page or post or blog post or product. It's something that's inside the website. There's also off-page optimization, but that's a whole nother different discussion, and much more than we can get through in an hour. So again, we're focusing on what happens in your website. So I have a process that I go through, and I'm going to kind of take you through that process today, as well as show you some real world examples of the good and the bad, so you can use those as learning lessons. So there's, what should you do before you start to write content and optimize it? A lot of people get excited when they have a new idea and they want to jump into WordPress and they want to start putting content in and hit the publish button, but they miss some critical elements along the way when they do that. And the first thing is just to ask yourself, what kind of keyword phrase are you going to focus on? I'm a very strong proponent of having a very focused keyword process for both selection and research, as well as mapping that to individual pieces of content within your website. I like to have a 1 or 2 phrase matched up to each URL that we're going to be focusing on for SEO purposes. And that process should start before you're actually writing content. And so in today's webinar, we're going to pretend that we are going to write a blog post, because that will pertain to both bloggers as well as website owners. So if you were going to write a blog post, what kind of process would you go through to make sure that you are going to put your best foot forward and make sure that somebody finds your blog post besides your mom or your sister? So first thing I would do is, and this is my process that I've used, and it's very successful for me. When I think about something I want to write, I just start to brainstorm topics that would be covering this type of idea, right? I write down like 5 to 10 search phrases, and not just one word, but actual phrases that could pertain to this topic. And one thing to note there is, when I first started with SEO 15 years ago, we looked at one keyword phrase that was very simplistic, and people looked for, very simplistic phrases. They searched for simplistic phrases. Things were 1 word or 2 word searches. That is not the case in today's environment. Today's environment, we have voice search, where people are using their voice and not typing, and to power searches through cell phones and through Google Home devices and Alexa devices. And this is changing the way the search is done. And 20% of search now comes from voice generated inquiries. And if you look at even like the simplistic so the selections that, like, my son asked the other day, is mac and cheese healthy? He asked Google that. That's a common search phrase now with voice search. 15 years ago, not only would we not have put that in, we would have gotten a really crappy answer back from the search engines because they weren't capable of figuring out what we meant. It's totally changed now. So when I tell you to write down 5 to 10 search phrases, I don't want you to just write one keyword. I want you to think, short to long questions and phrases and whatever would be the best kind of fit for what you might want to write about. So then the next thing that you would want to do is you would want to search this phrase or these phrases inside Google and see who shows up on page 1. Are the results that are presenting really good results? Are they, do they have weak content? Are the websites kind of crappy? And that's what I start to look at to say, okay, can I beat them? Can I generate better content than what they offer? And if the answer is yes, I could potentially do that. And you don't need to beat everybody on page 1. You just need to beat a couple. Then I start to look at volumes. My go-to previously was always Google AdWords. And if you're running pay-per-clicks, you can still get wonderful information from Google AdWords and find out what the monthly search volumes are for these different phrases. If you're not, and you're like me and you hate pay-per-click, I actually view it as cocaine for marketers. You can use other tools. My favorite tool is KW Finder. It's like $12 a month, but it provides a bunch of information. It not only gives you search volumes from Google, it also shows you metrics on everybody who's ranking on page 1, so you can kind of help figure out if you could potentially beat them in search. So as I go through and I grab those volumes, now I start narrowing down those volumes to say, okay, what is a realistic number? And I'll tell you that 60,000 searches per month is probably not a realistic number for a blog post. It is for a very strong, what I would call cornerstone page or post, but you'd have to nurture that over time to be able to rank for that. And typically with blog posts, we're not going to do that. So you need to kind of scale back your volumes, and we'll look at some examples of that in a minute. And then once I start reducing out phrases because either there is no search or there's just tons of search and it's not realistic, then I start to kind of get down into a short list. And my next step is to think about how easily I can use this phrase in a title of a blog post or the opening sentence or the opening paragraph. And could I weave that through the content in a natural way? And this is an important one because if you skip this step, you're going to start writing and then you're going to realize you never ever used your phrase because it's not natural and it's not easy to use. So that's why it's always easy to try to say it, put it in a sentence, put it in a title, say it out loud to make sure that it actually reads well and you can write about it. So as you look at the keyword volumes, I like to give you this real world example. This is a client of ours who came to me with this, and she said, Rebecca, you've launched me this beautiful blog. It's custom designed. You taught me about SEO, but I'm just not really ranking. And I said, well, so, tell me what's going on. And she said, well, I wrote a blog post. It was a great article about the benefits of parsley. And I said, what was your keyword focus? And her response was parsley, which has 200,000 searches per month. She is a new blogger. She's only been blogging for like 6 months, and she targets mothers who, and parents who want to produce healthy food and options for their children. So parsley, it is way too broad. We have it listed at the top. It's just, you see the number of results in Google and the search volumes, and there's no point going after a phrase where you're never going to make any traction. You're better off scaling that down. So then I asked her, I said, well, was it about recipes? Because recipes has a smaller search volume and it's much more targeted. She said, no, it was really about the health benefits of parsley and weaving that into juice. And I said, oh, well, okay, so let's look at those search volumes. So we started looking at the health benefits of parsley, which is 2,400. That is a much better option because A, it is much more easy for her to rank on that and compete in that environment. But B, it is much more focused on the actual content at hand. And that's what she's really talking about, is the health benefits of parsley. And that would both make users happy, because if they search for that and they found her article, it is what they would be searching for. And it would make the search engines happy because by being specific, she is actually helping them deliver a quality experience for their users. And that's the ultimate goal. So then we looked at the fourth one, which was parsley juice benefits. You know what? That was exactly what she was talking about. And if someone were interested in that, they would find a wonderful piece of information that she was writing for them. And so that was our best option. And so look at that variance, 200,000 searches down to 260. But that's not really the important one. It's the results. 30 million other websites and blogs should be competing with against 600,000. That's a huge difference. And that's why you really have to take the time to really make sure that what you're picking for your keyword phrase is about your content and it is going to relate to the target demographic that you're serving so that you can provide them a quality answer or solution to whatever their problem is. So then the next thing that I always ask people to do is consider this keyword and ask yourself if you've used it before. Is it on products or posts or pages or even categories and tags? And the reason you do that is you don't want to have a focused keyword appear on multiple places of your website. It can be used within the content, but you don't want it to be the focus of that URL, because when you do that, you start confusing people as well as the search engines. They want to know the best place to send someone for parsley juice benefits. They don't want to question which URL on your website or blog is the right answer. It's your job as the website or blog owner to give them that direction. And that's really what you're doing with keyword selection and making sure that you have focus for the individual pages and posts in your website. And those tools that we use, like Yoast SEO, it's his plugin, and it asks you for the focus keyword. That's why he's asking you. He's trying to guide you along that path and make sure that you aren't competing with yourself and that you really are having focus. So we want to write content that both search engines and users will love. And I can't stress that enough, because Google is taking into account now a lot of variables that work towards this goal, including things like click-through rates to your blog and time on site. All of that goes into the SEO metrics that didn't go in 15 years ago when I started. So we really need to make sure that the content that we write solves problems. It helps answer something that someone is searching for. And when we focus on the user and less about the SEO, that's when we're really going to resonate with the search engines as well as the user and really have an impact. So here's another data point that I like to give people, is that longer content wins, and it wins with everybody. So when you look at the top 10 results on Google in today's world of SEO, it is not 300 words. I know that there's plugins that will say and give you a green light for the 300 words, and that was great 15 years ago, but it doesn't apply now. I love Yoast, and I'm not quite sure why they haven't changed that yet, but 300 words isn't going to get you on page one, and that's because you're competing with content that is 1,500 words or 2,000 words, and you can see from these metrics that the average number of words for content and the number one spot is 2,400. And for the number 10 spot, it's 2,000. You really have to think about, what is the length of that content? And go back to what I was just previously saying. Good SEO is about solving people's problems and giving them an answer to what they're searching for. And in most cases, 300 words is not going to do it. And if we think back to that question my son asked, which was, is mac and cheese healthy? Google, God bless her, came back with the answer to him and said, and by the way, we were eating dinner and he wanted mac and cheese. She said, mac and cheese could be a whole lot healthier if you add in cauliflower. Let me give you a great recipe for that. And she said it with that type of tone. And if you saw my son's face, he just kind of deflated in his chair, because he surely does not want cauliflower in his mac and cheese. But think about the level of detail within that answer she was pulling from. It wasn't just a question, is mac and cheese healthy? It was an answer she was giving, an additional information to really solve the problem that he would have. Of course, she's assuming that I was asking that problem and I really wanted the recipe. But let's move on. I just want to reinforce the fact that it is long content that's going to resonate. You have to make sure that the long content is available for people to really digest. It will not only make them happy, they're going to want to share it on social media. They're going to want to link into it from other blogs and websites, and it will be better for conversions. The idea of internet marketing, and this even goes back to my days of software, is we need to make sure that we are using the website and our blogs to build up authority and trust with people and showcase ourselves as the expert in whatever topic matter that we're discussing. And when we do that, and when we produce high quality content and it's focused on our target market, that's when we have better conversions, whether it be a product, an inquiry, a subscription to your blog posts, whatever you're wanting to convert, this does it for you. It's building that trust, and you can't do it with 300 words. You have to have a lot more words than that to make an impact. Okay, so let's look at some optimization best practices that we can go through. And I'm going to go through each one of these, and you're going to see me utilizing a specific blog post that from my site. And it's actually a couple of years old, and it was ranking. I honestly don't know where it's ranking on right now, but when I originally did it, it was a couple of years old. And it was ranking on page one, and it was like about 3 or 4, which was great because this was driving affiliate revenue for me to the Rainmaker platform. You can see it right here on the right-hand side. And if you'd like, you can find it just by searching New Rainmaker platform on Google, and it will take you to this article on my website. And I'm not trying to push you all to my website, but I want you to see the usability of it. And that's why I use this as an example, because there's a lot of things here that are going right for me. And it's much easier to teach you something by providing examples. So if you want to do that, you are welcome to do it. The blog post was from August of 2014. And again, it's the New Rainmaker platform will have you doing the happiness. So as we talk through that and you see the examples I have with the presentation, this is what it's pointing to. So let's talk about what really matters. When you are optimizing on site for a page or a post or a product, your goal is to make sure that the search engines understand what the intent of the content is. And the Yoast plugin will help you with those green dots, and the plugin is trying to help you do that as well. it's going through and making sure that you're reinforcing what this post is about so that the search engines know this is exactly the place they should send someone to solve whatever problem or question or issue they might have. And when we look at our focus keyword, where should we make sure that it appears within our content? Well, first and foremost, it should be in the page name. In WordPress, whether you have it's a page or a post, when you put it there, it's going to automatically show up as the URL and within the H1 header. You don't need to have just the keyword phrase. You see in my example, my keyword focus is new Rainmaker platform, but my title is much longer. It's the new Rainmaker platform makes you do a happy dance. I have a longer title because I want to grab people's attention. I wanted to have a quirky image that could be used on social media that could kind of draw people's eye in. But so I've got the phrase within the title. I've got it within the URL. It's within my header, my H1 header. And immediately when you walk into reading the post, you're going to find it at the beginning of the post, which reinforces to everybody that this post is about the new Rainmaker platform. I've weaved in variations of that phrase within the blog post. And if you look, as you scan the article, you're going to see that I've got variations of that. Variations are really important today. You're going to see in this list right here, I don't talk about density. I don't chase a keyword density amount. Density meaning, by the way, for those aren't familiar with it, it's how many times you've used that keyword phrase within your content in relationship to the overall words on the page. We chased a specific density number years ago. We don't do that now as SEOs. What we worry about is helping the search engines find the right content and making sure that it's natural. We're using our keyword focus naturally. One of the ways is you do that is by keyword variations and related phrases. What would be an example of that? So we're all familiar with WordPress. So if my focus was WordPress theme, a variation would be WordPress templates. They mean the same thing, but you can swap them out in exchange for each other. It's just as simple as that. When you talk to someone with a natural tone, you use variations within your conversations. That's what the search engines are looking for because they don't want it to look stuffed with keywords or like an SEO consultant wrote it. They want to look like a real person wrote it. So some of the other indicators that we can have is internal links and links, the anchor text within those links. Those internal links, they help the search engines understand that they reinforce what this blog's about. And one thing to note is those internal links not only help the content that you're linking within, but also that destination content, and they can be very powerful. I could have a whole nother hour-long webinar about linking and what's called deep linking within websites. So, we'll note that that's important, and it's something that, to be cognizant of. Images are important. Having an image on your page is important. You don't always have the keyword phrase within the image because it is impossible. The search engines are very adamant that the alt text that you give to your images that describe alt text meaning what you're describing the images. They don't want it to be spammy. They don't want me to have purple puppy, purple puppy, purple puppy because that's what my phrase is. They would like me to describe the image. If the image is the purple puppy playing with the ball, that's what they would like me to describe the image and use that within the text so they understand what that image is about, as does somebody with accessibility and someone who has to have a screen reader tell them what that image is about. So do use images. They certainly help with usability. They can help with SEO, but you want to make sure that it's real and it's not spammy. So readability is a huge issue, and it's very important in today's SEO because the longer you can keep people on your blog or your post or your page, the more Google views this as important. And if you look at my example, it is very readable. I have short paragraphs. I have headers that allow you to scan the page and really see or go to the areas that you'd like. There's an image I have where I could use the Rainmaker platform in the alt text in the description because that's really what it is. It's the dashboard. I'm using bolds and bullets. I'm a bullet person. I love bullets and I'm always going to scan them. Google knows that there's a lot of people out there like me, so they also like bullets. And if you just continue to see the different headers and the bolds and the bullets, you get to really scan and you can really zero in on what's important to you as the reader. That usability certainly helps with SEO, and it's always something that you should keep in mind as you're writing, content and copy for your posts, your pages, and your products. Okay, so the meta title and meta description, very, very important, because this is your first opportunity to sell. And it's this little guy up here, and there's a reason why Yoast gives that to you as a preview. They should include your keyword phrase or your keyword itself, and they should be very readable and easy to digest for people. Okay, so let's look at some of these guys individually. So, because I probably overwhelmed a lot of people with that list, and I don't want to do that. I want to go slide by slide by slide. So the page name, again, it is simply the name that you give your page or post or product when you enter it into WordPress. WordPress is going to default the URL and the H1 header to this for you automatically. And you see in my example, there's my page name. And for the URL, I've actually shortened it because I like to have them as short as possible because it's easier for the users and it's easier for the search engines to digest. The interesting thing, or in my pro tips for optimization, is choose a title that's relevant to what you're talking about. Make sure it's unique and it's not going to be a duplicate of other pages or posts in your site. You want it to be short enough so that it's easy to read and digest and easy to see on social media and not struggle with trying to comprehend what it's about. You want to include your keyword but not repeat it. And if possible, you'd like to kind of push it towards the start of the page title and not the end. And that's because the search engines will read left to right. If you're working with local SEO, please do not force the local geographical reference in unless it actually makes sense to do so. It's a lot of times with lawyers and accountants and real estate agents who do their own websites. They've been taught from outdated blog posts and articles that they should constantly be filling their website with their geographical reference. That was true 10 years ago. It's not the case today. Doesn't need to be there, yes, but it doesn't need to be in every single title of every single page. So the URL, like I said, should include your keyword. It should be short. The longer you make it, the harder it is for people and search engines to digest. You don't want any funky characters in it. I mean, you want it to look like this, where it's actual words. If you're using page URLs in your structure for your website in WordPress, that's not SEO friendly. You want to convert those and have it actually be words. And then content silos, which are wonderful to use. If you can utilize them within pages, it's great, and it does help your website SEO overall and the SEO of those individual pages. And that's because the search engines will be able to understand what this architecture of your site is about. That is also a whole presentation in itself, so I won't dive into that today. Okay, so H1 headers. I'm showing you the one that I have for that article. Like I said, it should include the keyword. You don't want to repeat those. Please, oh, please, oh, please don't do that. I know that the WordPress editor allows you to have manual H1 headers input. Do not do that, and do not duplicate H1 headers. People do that frequently, and it's very confusing to the search engines. And I get very frustrated when I go to a brand new website that's been coded, and instead of seeing one H1 header on the page or post that tells me clearly what that content's about, I see 20. The issue with that is it does not set up structure for the search engines. It makes them difficult to understand what you're reading. So if your website or blog has a ton of H1 headers on each page and post, that's an issue, and you need to resolve that with the code structure of your theme. H2 and H6 headers, I love using those, as you saw with my article, because it allows you to break that content up. They also can help with the search engines. The caveat, though, I want to throw out there for that is you should not be repeating your keyword phrase constantly in these headers without anything else. You know, my example for one of mine was the new Rainmaker platform extends the beauty of WordPress. I am using my phrase. I'm giving you an idea of what I'm going to talk about in this next section of the blog. So that's good for the user, and it assists the search engines to understand, you know, what's coming ahead, right? That's how you want to use those. There's a green light for that in Yoast because Yoast wants you to use the keyword phrase in your subheaders. If you can, wonderful. If you can't, then skip it. Don't do it. Don't worry about it. You can't always have a green light for everything. The one thing to make about the headers is they're title case, they're short, they're headers, they're not long sentences. So avoid doing that because that creates a readability problem with people. Okay, paragraph text. that may seem like simple and like, why am I even talking about this? Because we all know we have to have paragraph text, but there are, nuances that you can do to help yourself rank. One is to make sure that the keyword phrase is sprinkled, throughout the page. So it's realistic, and it's easy to understand that this is what this is about. The next is to make sure that you're not overdoing it. You don't want to stuff keywords. Stuffing means everywhere I look, it's the Rainmaker platform, Rainmaker platform, Rainmaker platform. What happens when you do that? It makes it very hard to digest the content. And new SEO consultants and new, people who are new to the concept of SEO tend to do that because they've been taught that density is important. Don't let that happen. Just naturally use the phrase throughout your writing, and you will be served well by the search engines. Again, I'm reminding you to use variations and synonyms because that's natural, and that helps the search engines understand what this is about. Here's more examples, the variations. Where can you find those variations? Because it can seem frustrating, right? When you're writing. One of the places I go is I look down at the search results at the bottom of Google. So if I just put in Rainmaker platform, what comes out is variations and additional topics that you could talk about. The Google auto suggests, so if you start typing slowly Rainmaker platform into the search box, Google's going to give you some frequently searched for phrases. That's another way, because you can kind of see things that could be exchanged out. When you type in WordPress, you'll see themes, templates, things like that. And that's a great way to find some if you're stuck and you can't quite figure out what they might be. Images, we talked about images. The text that used to describe it, very important. And I like to show this because this is actually an example from the search engines. This is from Google specifically. What's a bad description? That is nothing at all. This alt guy right here is really what we're talking about. Having nothing there is unfortunate because now the search engines and screen readers will have no idea what that image is about. A better one is to actually describe it. But like I gave that example with the purple puppy, what is even a better one? Is saying it's a Dalmatian puppy playing fetch. You're describing that image. What would be a bad one? This would be a spammy bad one that's got all different types of variations of pup and dog and puppies and things like that. I see this a lot. Don't do that. Don't be that guy. Internal links. Where you place those links and allowing them to help nurture the other content is important. So, for example, if you're on that Rainmaker platform for my website, I may have linked into my website design page because that is a dominant page on our website and it brings in a ton of traffic. And by linking over to website design throughout my website, I'm nurturing that page and I'm giving an indication to Google that that page is important. The more internal links Google sees to a specific piece of content on your website, the more important it considers that content to be. It's like votes, just like links coming into your website from third-party sources are votes. So as you are crafting out how you want to link within your website, remember that. Remember that those votes matter and they'll help the SEO of the destination page. That link anchor text, you need to make sure it clearly describes where you're linking to. I had a client the other day, and she was well versed in SEO, but she just kind of got sidetracked. She used the same phrase within one blog post to link to two different locations, and the destinations were about two different things. Well, that doesn't service the user really well if you think about it. If I see the phrase red apples, and at one point it links over to purple plums, and in the other case, it points over to red apples. Does that confuse me? It does. First, why would you have two links of the same phrase? And why would they go to two different pieces of content that are talking about two different things? That's a usability issue, and it is for the user, and it's also confusing to the search engines. So you need to make sure that those links and the text that you're using to describe those links are very informative for everybody. Try to avoid click here and page and read more and articles because that doesn't describe what that link is about. All of these little nuances and factors help improve your SEO. Google makes a comment that SEO is about doing small incremental things over and over to help increase the user experience of your website. That's what SEO is to Google. And that's the things that I'm taking you through in this presentation today. So I talked about readability and usability. This is a real world example, and I'm going to show you the real website because I just think it's fun. I have a cottage up north, and it has a bathtub that has a mural in it from the 70s. It was original to the house. I mean, and everybody wants a mural and a picture inside their bathtub. I know. So we want to get rid of it. We want to glaze that bathtub, or we had to replace it. And I was looking for websites that I could find someone to glaze my bathtub. And this is like the only guy that I could find. This is a real website. This is live. It's called thebathtubguy.com. I could not call this guy and have him come do our glazing, even though he was the only one in the area. And it's just because it was such a usability problem. Not only is the yellow on red really hard for people who are colorblind and just to digest in general, all of the various fonts, the purple, I don't even know what's going on in this area right here. I can't even read that. And I can't imagine anybody with colorblind can. And now I go, and now I'm bolded, and I've got, the large stuff in different colors. And now I come down and I've got all this spam. All of these city locations, great. That may have brought me in because you're not competing with anybody and Google hasn't noticed it, but that's keyword spam. And that just all of this together degrades the user experience. I could not call this guy. My husband was surprised that we didn't do it. And I said, I just can't do it because for me, if he had this little attention to his presentation and it was hard for me to understand what he could offer me, I could not pull the trigger. I could not convert. Needless to say, we have gutted our bathroom and we now have a brand new bathtub and we never reglazed it. But that's how important usability is and readability. So try to make sure you're using short paragraphs and bullets and subheaders. Use images when they actually pertain to the content and they work and they help you. And just say no to the bling and the bright neon and all the unnecessary movement, the sliders that move, that make it difficult to read, the dancing pizzas that appear on websites. We see this kind of stuff every day. And you always just want to make sure that you say no to it where you can. So meta titles and descriptions, I touched on this before. These are really important because, again, they're the first thing that you see before anyone ever even gets to your website. It's your first opportunity to reach out to somebody and say, hey, this is what my content's about. And so, because this is what shows up in the search engines, in the search engine results page. You want to make sure it describes your content. You want to include your keyword phrase. For the titles, you want to keep them underneath 55 characters because otherwise it's going to get cut off. And for meta titles, again, these are titles. These are not long sentences. These are titles. Make them brief, make them easy to read. For the descriptions, it's 150 characters. It's this guy right here. Notice that Google is highlighting the search phrase so that I see it right away. It should be, again, sentences, 1 or 2 brief sentences. It should describe the content. It should entice someone to click through to your content without being cheesy and kind of salesy. Remember, SEO, the snake oil salesman, you want to avoid that. You just want to build trust from the search engine results page. Okay, so let's talk about some common mistakes that I always see people make. And I say this one because I want to grab your attention. Crappy content. Please do not write content just to fill white space. I told you that you need to have, 1,000 words to really compete. If you want to be at the top of page 1, you need to have more like 2,000. Don't just write to write. Don't fill the page with so let me rephrase this. Do you remember when you were in high school or undergraduate? I don't know what it's called overseas, and you had to write that essay, and your teacher told you it had to fill up the whole page, and you didn't know what to write about, so you just kind of resaid the same thing over and over again, hoping that they wouldn't really notice it, and you'd hopefully get an A. Okay, I did that. I don't know if everybody else did that, but I did that. I see people do that all the time on the internet when writing content, and they're just re-saying the same thing over and over again, but never really giving me enough meat, never giving me enough information that I feel bought in, that I feel I want to call or reach out or buy their product or inquire so that they can provide a service to me. That's what you need to do. And you can't do that with crappy content. You really need to make sure that you're not just filling white space. You need to make sure that you're providing a solution for somebody, giving them the information that they crave so that they want to reach out and have more interaction with you. The next is people forget keywords. And when I say keywords, you can plan for a keyword, you write out your content, and then you publish, and guess what? You never used your keyword. I see that all the time. People go, I optimized, but why am I not ranking? And I look and I'm like, but you never used your phrase. You never even used anything close to your phrase. You used everything else besides your phrase, which that just happens. It's natural. You just need to make sure that you protect yourself against that. And you look for those those green lights, and you utilize those green lights as a tool to make sure that you did use the phrase where you should. And then the next one is inaccurate SEO knowledge. So this happens an awful lot where either somebody reaches out to me or I have an existing SEO client who has read something, or somebody like their brother told them something because their brother says they're an expert in marketing, and it's from 15 years ago or 10 years ago. In today's world, that can get you in trouble. And by in trouble, I mean that can get you completely removed off from Google and their entire index and search. You need to be careful when you're doing your own SEO. Again, you can do it and you can be powerful and you can be successful with it. I did, and so anybody else can. And I say that because I was the little kid in remedial reading in 5th grade. I was the kid who barely squeaked out of high school and, didn't do a great job until she got to college. I was the underperformer, and I truly was. And it wasn't that I was stupid. It was just, for other reasons around me. But if I can go from that to from barely being able to talk to people and stuttering at like age 4 and barely being able to write to being successful and, successful marketer, successful SEO, anybody can do it. Really, anybody can do it. The key is to make sure that you're finding the right information, it's current information, and it's from a source that you can trust. That's what's really important. So if you are researching SEO on the internet, please make sure that you're looking at the dates of those articles to make sure that they're current. Don't read an article from 5 years ago and take it as truth. You have to be worried about that. And if someone's telling you something, ask them where they're getting that information from. I have an SEO course, and part of the SEO course, I consistently put in videos from Google. And I start out the lesson or the lesson topic with a video from Google, even if that video is 5 years old. And I do that because that is when that issue came about. That is when Google gave you said information and said this was the case, and it still applies today. I do that with my students so that they can see it's reliable information. And Google actually just released a video last week, actually, this week or last week, but it said how to hire an SEO consultant. And one of the things that they suggested was if someone is giving you a report or a proposal and it's telling you that they want to do specific steps, ask them why. Ask them where they're getting that information from. And Google said it better point back to us. At some point or another, they better show you where they know this knowledge and why they're getting this information and why they're telling you to do something. And Google's saying that because they know this last guy over here happens all the time. I mean, in the US, all we're hearing right now is information about fake news and fake information, how, we've all been distorted and blah, 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 blah. But it does happen on the internet because there is so much information and there's no barrier of entry. Anybody can publish information. Anybody can call themselves an SEO consultant. So as you educate yourself, please make sure that you're getting it from really high quality sources of information. Okay, so those are the slides I wanted to go through, and I know we covered a really lot of information, so I want to have time and open up the floor for some additional information so we can really kind of, digest some good questions and give some good feedback. While we're doing that, I do have up some places that you can find me. The last one, if you are concerned about that last item I told you about, finding really good information, there is a private Facebook group I have called SEO Launchpad. You are welcome to join me. And what I do there is I just share articles about SEO from my trusted sources, right? Consultants and websites that I know to be authoritative in the subject and I can trust them and I know that they're right. I share things from Google too. So if you're feeling like you're not sure where to get that information, please feel free to join us and you'll get daily news updates from me on what's happening in SEO. Okay, so time for questions. What do you have for me?
That's awesome. Thanks so much. That was a great presentation. Lots of notes here for things we should be doing for on-page SEO. We do have a few questions. I'm sure more are going to come in. Before we do, though, I wanted to talk a little bit about your course. You mentioned you've got a course.
Yes.
That's probably the easiest way to learn all of the rest of the stuff besides, having to go around and scrape together bits of information from possibly unreliable websites.
Yeah. Yeah, so my course is 8 hours. It's at DIY SEOcourses.com. And it's 8 full hours of tutorials and how-tos and written exercises and templates and quizzes. And like I said, I have videos from Google so you can see Google actually telling us, to do something. And then I talk through how to do it. And it is really my process that I've used for 15 years. We start with talking about who your target market is and your website personas. And then we go to, competitor research, keyword investigation, site mapping, writing that content off page promotion. And then, and I talk about tools and things, lots and lots of information. But I will tell you, if you take the course, you need to buy into spending time, because that 8-hour course is really more like 36 hours, because you're going to have 8 hours of education, but I'm also giving you homework along the way that you really need to learn and do and practice so you can really execute on your website or blog. I'd love you to take it, but I want you to know what you're in for. It's not going to be a 1 hour in and out type of engagement for you.
This is for people who really want to learn SEO.
It is. And from, you want to do it yourself. You want to know what process you should have, and you want a roadmap for you, right? That's what you want. You want someone to say, here's the process you need to go through. Here are the tools, and now go make this happen.
And I popped in a banner on the side there. Anyone who's interested in learning more about that should click that, learn more. To the Top SEO, of course.
Yes.
I love the SEO in the title of the course for people searching for the top SEO course.
Yeah.
So Doug asks a relevant question. Today you talked about on-page SEO. This was actually going to be one of my questions. What other similar topics do people need to learn about when they're learning about SEO? I'm sure many of them are in your course, or all of them are in your course.
Yeah. So off-page SEO is really important as well. Google breaks it down into two segments. We have that on-page, which you control, and then we have off-page where you can influence it. Off-page is about working hard to let the search engines know that somebody else besides your mom reads your website or blog, and for them to help get an understanding of who you are outside of the website, right? So for example, I have social media profiles for all of my different sites, and myself included. I repeat my keywords in my descriptions for the site. You're going to see website design in every single description on the internet for Web Savvy Marketing. You're going to see SEO courses for every single description on the internet for this guy. But then I also participate in the industry around me, in the world around me. I come to this, which most likely will have a link coming back to one of my sites. That's off-page SEO. I do podcasts and webinars, and I talk at WordCamps, all of which are links coming back to my websites from authoritative locations on the internet, which is giving Google signals about who I am and what I do. And that's what offsite SEO is really about.
And a lot of those activities turn into links.
They do. I never chase links. I never sent emails out asking people for, inbound links. That is not my approach. And I know Google doesn't want you to do it, so I don't do it. I just try to be good and be a good citizen and provide education and assistance and do good within the community. And that comes back to me tenfold in inbound links.
So your inbound link building strategy is completely organic then?
It is. Absolutely. Yep.
So that then leads to Santiago's question. With correct SEO, what is the average time needed to rank? And I'm guessing with an organic link building strategy, that's a little bit more time consuming.
It is. So, when I work on an SEO project with somebody, I typically, we're like about 6 to 8 weeks just to do competitive research, keyword selection, and on-page optimization, right? That's 6 to 8 weeks. Then you're going to spend another 2-3 months building links into the site. And it's an ongoing effort, but you can see headway within, I would tell you, 3 to 6 months if you're doing things right. You can score on page 1 for a blog post right away if it's really well done. And you can get some traction in social media and people can give some inbound links. But for an overall website, to really make an impact, it's generally about 3 to 6 months. And anything below that, it's too rushed. And if someone tells you that you can't have any impact in less than 6 months, they're trying to get you to sign a retainer. Right. You don't need a whole year to be able to see impact.
But just to be clear, you're not going to rank on the first page of Google in most cases for a competitive keyword without some inbound links. On-page
Exactly.
SEO alone is not going to get you there.
Correct.
You
Yeah,
need
it's a marriage. It's a marriage between the two. You have to have off and on, and that's because what you do off-site validates what you're doing on-site. It's telling Google that you're reputable, that you're trustworthy, and that other people like you besides your mom.
Not that that's not important, but
That correct. That's the easiest way to explain it to people. Is like someone other than your mom used to read your blog, and we need Google to see that.
everyone's got a website and everyone's got a mom. So
Yes.
Google has to figure out who's more important there. Jeff asks, what do you recommend for individual products in a web store?
So it is typically hard to rank individual products in an e-commerce store if they come and go, right? They're coming in and out of stock all the time. You're better off ranking categories and subcategories and really focusing on them. Now, can you rank products? Absolutely. I built an entire, stock theme store based on SEO of individual products, and all of those targeted on niche, industries like WordPress accounting theme. WordPress, I'm trying to think of dentist theme. I did all of those based on those individual products, but a lot of stores don't work like that. They have products that come and go out of, and it's hard to optimize those because that link is good for 2 months and then it's gone because the product's out of stock. And so if that's the case, don't push so much effort on those individual links. Focus more on the categories and your subcategories because that's where you have the most traction.
Great advice. So we've got a few questions here related to the length of content. You were talking about the optimal length of content for ranking on page 1 of Google.
Yep.
And Linda asks, how does longer content fit with short attention spans?
That's a great question, Linda. That's why you do those shorter paragraphs and you weave in bullets and bolds and subheaders, because not everybody's going to read it, start to finish. In fact, so there's 3 different types of people on the internet with how they digest content. There's my old boss, who was literally a professor in astrophysics. And he read he was a speed reader, and he read every paragraph and hated bullets, but it's because he could read so fast and digest those paragraphs. He didn't care about anything else. You have me, the multitasking mom, who wants to read, bullets because I want to scan. So it's really important for me to have headers and bullets so I can zero into what I want to read, because I'm not reading the full 2,000 words. I'm just not going to do it. Then you have my husband, who hates to read. His mind goes faster than he can actually physically read. So he always goes to videos. He's going to always look for images and videos. And the goal with content is to make sure that you're appealing to all of those types of people and you're mixing all of that together to have a very nice page so that anyone who comes to your page or your post can have something to digest.
Right. And Google is actually using time on page as an indicator now.
It is, yes. And there's so many factors that they take into an account with click-through rates and things like that, you really do, the more you focus on the user experience and making sure that people are happy, the more you're going to be successful at SEO.
So I followed your advice and spent some time researching keywords. This really happened. I'm not just making this up. I found the keyword that I was going to target and wrote my in-depth, not 2,000 word, but maybe 1,200 word blog post. And Google liked it so much, they put it in an answer box.
That's the knowledge graph. That little guy is powerful.
And I was surprised to find, well, why would someone click through? Because then they condensed my 1,200 word post into like 2 sentences. Here's your answer.
Yep.
But I still get traffic from it. I was surprised.
You are going to get traffic from it because you dominate page 1 because of that knowledge graph guy at the top, and he's used for voice search. So he's not only dominating the desktop search engine results page, he's getting fed back to people like my son when they're doing voice search or, voice inquiries. And he's very, very powerful. And that is only going to continue to grow. And that knowledge graph and understanding how that works with the whys and the hows and the how-tos is powerful. And people don't stop there. I know websites where the knowledge graph is there. We have some. People click through that all the time. And the reason they do it is you've captured their attention and you've built up the trust. Google's giving them the 2-sentence answer, but it says to them, this is a trustworthy source. Click through and you're going to get an even better answer.
Okay. And this speaks to the ever-evolving nature of Google.
Yes.
And search in general and technology for that.
God bless them. It's always changing.
Jessica asks, what's your opinion about using Visual Composer when creating a WordPress website? Does it affect SEO?
So Visual Composer is like the bane of my existence. And I'm sorry to whoever developed that. I don't even know who you are, but and it's because it's difficult, right? It's difficult to optimize. It has like all this other stuff in there that goes along with it. So like, one thing to notice too is as you're developing themes or you're maybe customizing a page, the search engines look at the code to text ratio. So if you have a page that's really code heavy and it's seeing a ton of code comparing to the text, that is not good. That makes it difficult for the search engines to understand what that page is about. So the more focused you can be on a clean page with clean text and clean content, the better off you're going to be.
It may not look as flashy, but it's going to look better to Google and probably be easier to read.
And, with mobile devices. So if any of you, I don't know how many people in the audience went to WordCamp US, but Miley Ohay, who actually just retired from Google this week, she was there and she spoke. And one of the things that she said, which really resonated with me was, Google is very focused on third world countries because to them, they've not even seen the world's internet users, right? The people that are currently online and using their search tools is not the world's population. That population hasn't come online yet. They're just now coming online, and they're coming online with mobile devices. They don't have desktops. They've got phones. They've got phones running over very crappy networks. So they have to have very high performing pages to be able to serve them. That's why performance is so important to Google. That's why AMP is out there. They don't want to have all of this clutter on the page that like a page builder is going to give them. They want content so that they can deliver it via those mobile devices on crappy networks so that all of these new users that are just coming online can get to it and digest it. And they have to be able to serve that market. And that's where they're going with search. And that's what website owners and bloggers need to be aware of.
It really pays to think like a user, but also think like a user with the lowest possible technology.
It does. And it was so funny when she was giving that presentation, I thought to myself, how did I not see that as the fact? Because that makes total sense with everything they've done in the last couple of years.
So Gina asks a good question. If your page ranks for multiple keywords, even though you didn't optimize for some of them, is that bad? It seems like it would cannibalize the traffic or search results for other pages.
No, it's good. Like my website design page, I mean, that ranks for probably thousands of search terms. And you can't always control what Google's going to like for a given phrase. And with all those variations out there, don't stress about that. What you do need to stress about is that you are helping Google find the best page for a search phrase, right? Whatever that is. And the one thing to note is I think it's like maybe a fourth or something of searches done every day are brand new. Right? The search engines have never seen them before. So you're always going to have this influx of all these alternates and these variations come in for pages. And that's okay, because that's the nature of humans. We're messy and we change what we look for.
Okay. Looking through the questions here, we still have a few more left. Let's see. Adrian is asking about the word limits on pages. Do the word limits apply, or do the target length of post, does that apply to every page on your website?
It only applies to the ones that you want to rank for, right? Because not every page in a post or product is going to have 2,000 words or going to be able to have 2,000 words. So you have to use that, that benchmark with and relate it to what you're writing about. My about page, I'm sure, does not have 2,000 words, and it's not even optimized, right? That's an informational page for people once they already hit the website. And there's going to be blog posts that I write that have no keyword focus or that are just of a smaller nature and they can't get to that 2,000 words. That's fine. What you do need to remember, if you're going after a competitive phrase and everybody else on page one has 2,000 words, then you're going to have to too. And that's your answer, is search for your phrase that you're looking for in Google, see what's on page one, see how long that content is, and that's the benchmark that you need to meet.
Brian has kind of a scary, ominous question. With all of the huge companies with unlimited budgets trying to compete, is it possible to still make money with organic SEO for the small guy trying to
It
win?
is, because think about what I said at the very beginning of this presentation. I competed a one-woman show against Microsoft and SAP and Oracle. They had millions of dollars to spend on SEO and marketing. The way that I won, though, is because they're fragmented. There's nobody truly in charge of SEO. There's no one manning their keywords. They've got a bunch of people working on it, and it's unstructured. And when they have that unstructured, that environment, that's how you win, because you can be much more focused, much more fine-tuned as an individual than you can as an organization. I prove it all the time. You can outbeat those people. Do not let that intimidate you. What you need to focus on is just getting the right education and putting the sweat equity into making it happen.
And I think probably the reality for most of those huge organizations with unlimited budgets is their marketing departments have huge budgets and they just don't even worry about organic search. They just go straight to paid placement.
And it doesn't mean as much to them as it does to us. I mean, smaller companies, it is our, like I said, it fed my children. So I did everything I could to excel at it and to learn it. And, large companies with big staffs, they don't feel that way. They just don't.
They don't have the same long-term commitment.
Nope, not at all.
So Sarah asks, I guess it's kind of a WordPress question. She wants to know if these on-page rules apply to both web pages and individual blog posts.
They do, yes, absolutely.
To Google, they're all the same.
Google, yes. Well, Google can see the difference between pages and posts, and it can also see the difference between headers and footers and sidebars. But the whole goal is just to help them find the right URL to solve a query. Right? And Google doesn't care whether it's a page post or a custom post type. It's all the same as long as it creates a positive user experience and solves that searcher's problem.
And Doug has a question about your course. He'd like to know if you're going to provide updates and let the graduates know what they need to start doing and stop doing as things evolve.
Yes, I actually do update it over time. And then I also add additional courses on, like I just did one for competitive research, because there's only so much you can fit within that first course without losing people, right? Because they'll start to get overwhelmed and frustrated. So that first course teaches you the process. And if something changes, I come in and I update it. Like, for example, what was it? There was something that as soon as I published it, Google changed, PageRank. As soon as I published the course and said PageRank still matters, because it did at the time, Google came out like 2 months later and said, well, yeah, no, we're not going to show it to you anymore. It doesn't really matter. So I went back into the post and I actually left the original content, and then I put an update into that topic to say, here's what just came out and here's what the new information is. So you could see the transition over time. And as stuff does come in, if it will not overwhelm people in the process, I will add it as a topic. If it's going to feel overwhelming because it is longer, like my competitive research, that's 2 hours. Right? I didn't want to add 2 more hours into an already 8-hour course. So that became an add-on that you can just buy and take if you want.
And so I'm guessing this is lifetime access, one-time purchase, lifetime access.
Absolutely. Because yes, SEO is going to change. So you better have full-time access to it for sure.
Right. So you can work at your own pace too.
Yep.
Linda asks, can effective SEO overcome being a product in a commodity market?
I think so, because WordPress themes are kind of a commodity, aren't they?
Sure are.
They are. And guess what? I used to rank on page 1 for everything that I targeted when I actually really marketed them.
Yeah, you have to think about your product and what makes it unique.
Yeah. And that's, so that's part of it is, so like the SEO bootcamp that I did in January, one of the things I did for that was before people came, I actually sent them homework for 2 weeks beforehand. Every weekday they were getting new homework, and it was all focused on who are you, what do you do, who do you serve? And I was forcing them to do homework and answer those questions every day, so that when they got to my boot camp and we started going through my process, they had all of this information to use. And that's the key, is that you're really focusing on your niche and your target market, and you're really honing your SEO in for them, because that's how you win.
And one side benefit of this is that you get to know more about what your business is about.
You absolutely do. And so here's like my competitive resource course I did. When I was working on the research for that and building out that content, and I got videos in that, we were going through hosting companies. right? And I was using hosting companies because, most website owners are somewhat familiar with what hosting is, and the names would be familiar to them. So I thought that was a good data pool to use. So what I figured out was WooCommerce hosting was a phrase everybody was targeting. I would never have thought of that, right? I had no idea. And that was something that I learned along the way, but if you wouldn't have known unless you really focused in and honed in on that data and the process, because then it's exposing you to things you never even thought of yet.
And Adrian asks, if Google recognizes the difference between pages and posts, how do we select which is the best for different pages on our website?
So the way I like to view it is services and maybe products or things that you're selling and you're doing. Those are pages, right? Information that is new and that changes all the time, those are become posts. So I use my pages are like SEO consulting, website design. Those are the things of the services I offer. And then I've got products within the online store. And I use the posts to educate people and to give them timely information like our SEO summit that we just announced that's available, or my new course, or to educate you on competitive research. And I use that to build trust. And then once people come in through those posts and I've built up your trust or I've told you what's new, then I route you over to my services and my products so that you can actually buy those in the other area of the site.
So I think I get asked this question a lot. I think what it comes down to is use the WordPress content type that is the most appropriate to the content you're creating based on how you want to organize your website. And picking post or page won't really have an impact on your ranking one way or the other.
Correct. It's more what's better for the user and the architecture of your website.
And just keeping your site maintained too.
Yep.
If it's something that needs to be out there that's evergreen, sitting on your menu, that's going to be a page. If it's something that is the current information today, that's going to be a post.
Absolutely.
Dave needs clarification on page length. Are you suggesting that a home page should be 2,000 words?
No. And here's why. It's really hard to optimize your homepage because homepages are generally optimized for the brand name. So for like me, Web Savvy Marketing or DIY SEO courses, it's really hard to push that with a keyword because you can't legitimately link into that with a keyword without getting yourself in trouble. So I don't usually encourage people to optimize the homepage for phrases, right? It's different at a local level. Right? If you're a local dentist or you're a local agency, then you can optimize the homepage for that because that is what's going to show up in the Google results for that local pack. But however, on a national level, spend your time putting those phrases on pages and have them cornerstone pages because that's really where you'll get your most bang for your buck.
Great. And a couple more questions here. We're running a little long. Are you okay on time?
I'm sure I am. Keep it going.
Okay. Jeff asks, what can you say about a YouTube channel coinciding with my website?
So I would have told you a year ago, whatever, with YouTube. I'll be honest with that. But here's the thing to know about YouTube is the second biggest search engine. And it's a Google property. And once it became a Google property, I thought, I think I need to give it a little bit more attention. And guess what? Guess who's been putting videos on YouTube and has a channel? It would be me. Yeah. And as much as I've hated YouTube and I don't like to watch videos, I realize that there's a lot of people that do, and you need to utilize it, and it can aid in your SEO efforts. So I think those videos are great. You can easily embed YouTube videos over to a WordPress blog post or a page. So, if you're comfortable with producing them, go ahead and produce them because it will it'll expand your reach and it will help the search engines better understand the who and what of your website.
And if you embed one of your own videos on your own site, on your personal website, and you've got traffic to that page, those views count as views on YouTube, which is another signal to Google that when someone searches on YouTube, your video is relevant.
Yeah. And it's funny, like, you don't know who's going to watch it. Last night about 11 o'clock, my sister's texting me that she just watched a video I posted on the Moz Bar and really liked it. I mean, it's funny. Again, different people have different styles of digesting content. I don't think my sister ever comes and reads my blog posts, but apparently she's on YouTube watching my videos. So, it's a great way to reach different types of people.
Yeah. People consume information in different ways.
Yep.
Brian asks, everyone wants to rank number one, but what level do you consider winning? Number
What a
three, number five,
wonderful
number 10?
What a wonderful question. So, Brian, it varies. First of all, we know that most people never get to page two unless it's a really big purchase. So, like ERP software that I used to work in, which was a $100,000 purchase, people are going to go to page two and maybe three or four because it's such a big purchase and they can get fired if they make the wrong decision. But the average search doesn't ever go past page one. And a lot of times it's 1 through 7. If you're an app provider, because I've done SEO projects for app providers, they don't get traction unless they're in 1 through 3 because it's such people have such small attention spans when they're looking for apps. So it's going to vary by the industry. It's going to vary by the complexity of the product, but your goal is to get on page one for sure. And, I would say midway to top is wonderful. Don't always think that you have to be on page one to get traffic, or excuse me, not page one, on number one position to get traffic, because you can get good traffic at 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
And William is asking, do you think RankBrain will have a big impact on search results?
So that's a funny one because when that first came out, not everybody, there was a lot of consultants that were like trying to predict what RankBrain's going to do and teach you what to do with it. Okay, that was just craziness. They don't really know. I mean, that whole process is about Google having better intelligence on what searchers are looking for and what content will serve that result, right? It's like those longer phrases with my son and them understanding what a good solution is. So you don't have to get caught up in that. Just write good content that solves a user's problem and have that kind of focus with keywords and phrases, and you're going to be fine. You don't need to worry about all that craziness.
Okay, we have one last question, and I can't believe this is the last question. It's like a softball. Ken is asking, what's a good place to start learning SEO?
Well, Ken, I've got a boot camp if you'd like to join me on site in Oklahoma City.
We didn't mention your boot camp. So Rebecca has a course, which is always current, which is Ken was asking for a book, but books, by the time they're published, they're
outdated. Yes, truth.
So Ken, you should see in the sidebar a link to Rebecca's To the Top SEO course, and she's also doing boot camps, real live, face-to-face, in-person boot camps. When is your next one?
The next one is in May. It's in Oklahoma City, and there's only 25 seats. And it's expensive. I know that, but if you look at the videos from the attendance in January, you'll see why they came and why they recommend it. And they actually asked for an advanced boot camp, which I'm going to do this fall. But yeah, I mean, you have to have good trusted sources. So I'm a good trusted source. Moz is a good trusted source. Google's blog for developers is a great source. Google's got a PDF for getting started with search engine optimization. That's a great source. It's a matter of finding a few key people and following them because they're going to push out to you what's really relevant and what's important.
Great advice. And Brian says this is the best webinar he's ever seen.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad it's providing value for you.
And just wanted to answer the many questions we've had, confirming, yes, there will be a replay of it available. I will send out an email as soon as that's online. And lots of requests for your slides. Can we get a link to your slide share?
Yes.
Download of your slides?
Yeah. So my slide share, my slide share has tons of slides, but I'll send you over a copy of this. So that you can produce it or push it out to everybody with the video recording. But I am Rebecca Gill at SlideShare, and you'll see tons of SlideShares. My blog at WebSavvy also has a lot of presentations and blog posts and slides and videos on it that will produce additional free information for you.
Awesome. Thanks again for being here with us. This has been an exceptional webinar. I really appreciate it, and I know everyone got a lot out of it, and really awesome.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Have a great day.
Thank you.
And we're signing off. Thanks, everyone, for showing up. That was our webinar for today. As I said, I will send out a link as soon as the replay is available. And look for that in your inbox.